the time that I spent 7 years in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant. Hi, I'm Amy and welcome to my channel. I'm a certified attachment style coach and I help anxious attachers break the cycle of avoidant relationships so that they can heal and move forward in a secure and healthy way. And in today's video, I'm going to explain to you real life examples of really common patterns that happen when anxious meets an avoidant. And you're going to find some of these patterns really familiar. You're going to think, oh my God, I do all of these. And just so you know, there's absolutely no judgment here at all. If you slip into these patterns, don't beat yourself up. And most importantly, don't personalize the other person's behavior. So let's get started. So 7 years ago, I was fresh out of a divorce and I met what I came to know to be a dismissive avoidant. I didn't realize this at the time because I didn't have any idea about attachment styles. I didn't know that I was anxiously attached. I didn't know that he was dismissive avoidant. I just thought he was mysterious. Realistically, looking back, I should have known, but I didn't. And I've had to do the work on forgiving myself. I've had to do the work on why I thought that that was acceptable behavior, and also really dig into why the alarm bells didn't go off. Why was it that I was attracted to this person in the first place? What was it in my subconscious mind that was so familiar with this behavior that I didn't see it as a problem? So when I met this person, I just thought that they were mysterious. I thought they were playing hard to get, I'll be completely honest. However, it wasn't before long that some alarm bells did start to go off, because this person wasn't communicative. They batted off questions that were completely innocent. They didn't really give much away about their relationship history, and we were months down the line by this time. And I did attempt on several occasions to end this relationship, but somehow pulled myself back into it by believing this person's excuses of, I'm just not very experienced in relationships, or I just can't communicate well, but I'm ready to settle down and I'm ready to learn. One of the big red flags that I didn't act on was that this person was incredibly conflict avoidant. When someone's conflict avoidant, the other person has no other choice other than to end the relationship, to suppress what their feelings are, what their needs are, and what their thoughts are, because you are worried about rocking the boat, because subconsciously you know that this person is a flight risk. So if you rock the boat, this person is likely going to deflect, they're going to stonewall, they're going to dismiss you. And this is exactly what happened to me. And it got to a point where this person just wouldn't speak to me for days on end. There was occasions where he'd even block me for asking a question or for bringing up anything that he saw as a criticism. But again, because I didn't know anything about attachment styles, and if you've been with an avoidant partner, you will know that any issues in the relationship are your fault, because this is what you've been conditioned to think. And the reason is because dismissive avoidants have a really hard time with self-reflection and accountability, find it really difficult to apologize, because it really does trigger their shame wound and they find it incredibly uncomfortable. So even if you did get an apology, it wouldn't really be a proper one. It might give you a blanket apology such as, I'm sorry for my behavior, but that's all you're going to get. You're not going to get somebody who acknowledge how they made you feel or to build bridges towards trust again. It's sort of like, well, I've said I'm sorry, so you can't mention this again. And when it comes to conflict in a relationship with an avoidant, because they're so conflict averse, it actually creates more conflict in the relationship, because when somebody is so conflict averse, what it forces you to do is really suppress how you feel. You suppress your boundaries, you suppress your feelings, you suppress your needs, because you won't rock the boat. And because you're suppressing things, you then start to feel on edge. You then start to feel irritable, which creates more conflict for the avoidant to avoid. So instead of just dealing with conflict like a secure person, they'll avoid it like the plague, which creates so many problems in the relationship. And ultimately, the relationship will fall apart because either the anxious attached person is going to get sick of it, or the avoidant person is going to feel so pressured that they do what they do best and run. So as this relationship went along, these incidences were showing up quite a lot, and I started to notice how self-centered this person actually was. They weren't used to taking anybody else's needs into consideration, and this really felt quite hurtful because I didn't feel prioritized in the relationship. I didn't feel like this person considered what my needs were. They were solely focused on meeting their own needs and looking after themselves. Now, again, being on the receiving end of this is really painful, but when you're looking at it from the perspective of an avoidant, what you've got to understand is that this person values most their autonomy, and what they fear the most is emotional dependence. They are terrified of being emotionally dependent on somebody else. And this comes way in childhood, where their caregivers probably were emotionally neglectful. And this person would have learned at a very early age that they can't trust their caregivers with how they feel. Let's say, for example, if the avoidant, when they were a child, cried and their parents told them to man up, this is enough on a consistent basis to make someone feel like their emotions aren't acceptable and that their emotions are shameful. So for them to become emotionally dependent on somebody else would require vulnerability, and it would require intimacy, which is terrifying to an avoidant. Now, I'm not using this as an excuse for their behavior, because their behavior really is unacceptable. And for some personality types, they will use these tactics to manipulate you. But for the avoidant, it's almost not done on purpose. It's just that they don't consider how their actions actually make other people feel. So eventually, that was the pattern, that I didn't feel like I was getting my needs met. But I couldn't talk about it either because I knew that this person would distance themselves, and that would be really painful as well. So I was in this catch-22 situation where I had to either suppress my needs or talk about them and feel the emotional distance. So there wasn't really a win here. So I just started to try to shut up. This didn't last long though, because if you are consistently abandoning your needs and your feelings to placate somebody else, eventually it's going to come up in some way. And oh my gosh, it did, because I would find myself getting incredibly irritable. I would nitpick this person because I didn't feel like I could be myself in front of them. If I brought something up in an argument, I was using something as ammunition, but if I waited till we weren't in an argument, I was accused of ruining a perfectly nice day. So it was impossible, and it created even more conflict, which at some points was quite explosive. And eventually, just after, I would say, the year mark, the relationship came to an end. Now, during this time, I really went down the rabbit hole in spiritual teachings. And I really started to get into the law of attraction and other spiritual teachings, which I won't go into on this video because I'm not a manifesting channel anymore. So I got into these teachings and we did get back together. But it wasn't before long before this cycle continued again. Now, when I say that I have lost count of how many times we broke up and got back together, I am not exaggerating. I cannot give you a number. It's that high that we would split up and get back together, split up and get back together. But there were only a few where it was a longer breakup. And when I say long, I mean sort of between 6 weeks and 6 months. In the beginning, this person would come back to me. What would happen is we'd split up. I'd absolutely spiral because my attachment style was triggered, my abandonment wound was triggered. This person's left me. And at the time, I didn't consider the nature of the relationship. I was conditioned to feel like, not just by him, to be fair, from childhood, I was conditioned to think that things were always my fault. And I would think of all of the things that I did wrong. And I would really guilt myself into thinking that this is all my fault. I had a perfectly good relationship and I've just messed it up. How bad am I? I just don't deserve love. I just don't deserve commitment. And as time went on, probably about 3 years ago, I learnt about attachment styles and I certified in attachment style coaching. And I honestly thought this is the key. This is the thing that's been missing. It's the missing puzzle piece that's going to make this relationship work. And I don't think I'm alone in thinking this. I think people do think when they realize that this is an attachment style issue and not so much a personality issue, when they learn that their attachment style can in fact be healed, it kind of gives you a full sense of hope that because you can heal, they can heal as well. And I truly did fall into this, and we did end up moving in together. He moved into my house here. This was quite soon after quite a significant breakup. So it didn't take long after we got back together for this person to move in. When I've reflected on this, I can really see how every time we got back together, we'd have this kind of mini honeymoon period where everything was fine and dandy, and then the cycle would start again. And this happened again when this person moved in with me. Both of us were really drawn into a full sense of security that our problems were resolved. I was healing as much as I could. I was so interested in my attachment style. I was so into shadow work and releasing past trauma. I was going into my childhood and really reprogramming my mind to not believe that I was going to be abandoned all the time. Now, the problem with this is that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Even though this person was aware that their attachment style was causing problems in the relationship, they weren't necessarily keen on working through their own things. And this is typical of dismissive avoidants. They're the least likely attachment style to actually go to therapy and work through their stuff. And mainly it's due to the same reason why they don't like being in relationships, which is fear of intimacy and that they can't take accountability for their actions a lot of the time. And this makes therapy incredibly hard for both them and the therapist because they're never going to get to the root cause of the problem. And I'm not saying that this isn't for all dismissive avoidance. I'm not saying that attachment styles can absolutely be healed when it is that you're committed to healing it. So the same cycles would start again, and this person was still conflict averse and still threatening to end the relationship and move out. And it started to really take a big emotional toll on me. I was really starting to feel quite mentally unwell. It ended when I wanted to break the pattern, truly wanted to break it. And I have to say, when that relationship ended, it was evident of how much work I'd done on myself, because I can tell you that if this had happened 4 years ago, I would have been in a real mess. But because I've worked so hard on healing my past trauma and my core wounds and my attachment style, actually I've come out of this in an incredibly healthy way where I'm not ruminating on this person. I'm not going into limerence on this person anymore. And I was able to go no contact easily and accept that I'm never going to see or speak to this person again. That would have absolutely destroyed me 4 years ago. I wouldn't have wanted to think that. I wouldn't have wanted to consider the possibility that I would never speak to this person again. And the reason why it's a lot different is because I no longer attach my self-worth to a relationship. This is one of the anxious attachment's core beliefs, that my worth is directly attached to this relationship. And when you can break that belief that your self-worth is dependent on whether you're in a relationship or not, you will be absolutely fine on your own. When you start to genuinely believe that you're worthy no matter what, and that whatever this person says, whatever this person does, it doesn't matter, it doesn't diminish your own worth, you are going to be able to move past this relationship a lot quicker and a lot easier, because you're not thinking, oh my God, this person's gone and this person's the only person that can meet my needs and I feel really abandoned. Because when you're okay on your own and when you can confidently identify and meet your own needs in the relationship to yourself, you won't need this person. And this is how you move through a breakup a lot easier. So some of the other patterns that occurred in the relationship was the emotional distance. This person would display hot and cold behavior, and I couldn't understand at the time why I felt so anxious. I thought, oh, I'm just being needy. I didn't consider that this person's actions were making me feel that way. I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm just a needy person. It's not their fault, it's my neediness that's the problem. Whereas anybody who is being breadcrumbed, or they're in a relationship where there is intermittent reinforcement, of course you're going to feel anxious because it's so unpredictable. And as humans, we thrive on predictability. We don't like unpredictable patterns. So one day you might be showered with love and affection, and the next day, like, you're a ghost and you don't exist to them. And this, of course, is going to make you feel anxious. And with the emotional distancing, it triggered my attachment style to start to try and pull closer and to try and create some safety, which would make this person pull back even more, which would create more anxiety in me. And then what would happen is that I would say something, this person would say, no, it's not me, it's you need to sort yourself out. I'd think, oh yeah, of course it's me, and I would feel guilty. I would do anything to sort myself out. Well, this person got off scot-free. But it wasn't until the end of the relationship where I started to actually see these patterns play out, and that I decided that I didn't want these patterns anymore. I wasn't going to shut up anymore. I wanted to repair the relationship. I wanted to move forward, but not at the detriment of my own growth and mental health. When the relationship ended, it didn't actually take me that long to really focus on myself and my own life and be quite comfortable never speaking to this person again. I mean, I wish him well, but there is no desire there to have a relationship with this person anymore. And you can have this as well. You are not put on this earth to obsess about somebody, to only be valued when you're not there. You deserve consistency, you deserve love, you deserve commitment with somebody who will be more than willing to meet your needs, that you won't need to bend over backwards for to prove that you're worthy. Because this is what the avoidant attachment style conditions you to think, that you have to work hard for approval. It conditions you to think that you have to focus on them and them alone to meet their needs, with the hope that they might meet one of yours one day. And this dynamic is not healthy for anybody, even the avoidant, because the anxious attacher has dysfunction as well. The anxious attacher is able to process their feelings. They're able to articulate their feelings really well. They're able to access them so that they can process them. So if it is that a relationship with an avoidant has just ended, I want to give you hope that it doesn't have to be really difficult to get over this person. It really doesn't. When you can identify these patterns and when you can stop personalizing them and realize that it's actually this person's dysfunction that was making me feel really anxious. I'm not saying that there's no work to do, but when you can distance yourself from that, when you can go no contact, focus on your own healing, don't think about what they're doing. In fact, make them so insignificant that you don't care anymore. You will be able to move forward from this, get yourself healthy, get yourself in a healthy routine, eat good food, sleep well, join a gym, do some exercise, get the endorphins running, start a hobby, reconnect with friends, anything that is going to make you feel worthy. You are not going to feel worthy by going back to a person that makes you feel fundamentally unworthy. So I hope you found that video helpful. If you did, drop a comment below. If you feel called to, share this video and subscribe to this channel, but I will see you next time.